Kia ora whānau, nau mai, and welcome to this evening's Centre for Health Hauora Kōrero. No te arawa, me Ngāti Kahungunu, me Scotland, me Holland o Tupuna, ko Nat Hilsman tōku ingoa, and I'll be facilitating our kōrero tonight, talking about all things men's health, mind, body and wairua. So I don't know about you, Anna, but I'm feeling a little bit superfluous to requirements here. I think my job will be to wrestle with our panel tonight in terms of how long they can actually talk for. But hey aha, I'll pass over to our Director of Health, Anna Rolliston, who will introduce herself and the kaupapa that we're talking about tonight. Kia ora, Anna.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Welcome again to our online panel session. Really awesome to have you fellas watching at home, and we've got a awesome lineup as you can see tonight. And yeah, Nat and I'm looking forward to not actually having to say much tonight, so looking forward to the kōrero. We usually start these sessions with either a whakatauki or a karakia, and I thought that I'll go for a little bit of a left field whakatauki tonight to open the session, and that whakatauki is ka ora te whenua, ka ora te tangata, which means when the land is well, the people are well. And the reason why I think that's quite a good opening for this evening's kōrero is because sometimes when we think about needing to do something better for our health, maybe change our diet, do a bit more exercise, you know, figure out some trouble that we've got in our life, it can be really overwhelming and we get a bit stuck doing things for ourselves as an individual. And so when we think about a Māori worldview of health, we know that the environment's really important. And so that whakatauki really speaks to the fact that if you're really struggling with how to make a change for yourself as an individual, maybe the answer for you is actually to go out into the whenua, go outside, you know, go for a walk in the bush, climb a mountain, just get outside in the grass, even go outside of your office and your four walls on the day-to-day. That's the type of thing, that's the direction for the kōrero tonight. There's no one answer from tonight's conversation that you should do to be healthier or to move on your hauora journey. Just do something. And if the stuff about you as an individual feels still quite difficult, that's all good. Maybe just get outside. That's the message for tonight. So kia ora everyone. I think most people know who I am. I'm Managing Director at the Centre for Health and really grateful to these guys for coming along tonight. Kia ora, Nat.
Oh, kia ora, Anna. Thank you for that beautiful platform to kind of springboard off. First up, I think let's go around our virtual tepu. And just introduce ourselves. Selwyn, do you want to just introduce yourself and have a bit of a kōrero about why you're here, mate?
Well, I didn't want to go first, but that's what happens when you say, oh, don't make me go first.
Pretty much, mate. Thank you.
Hoi anō, tēnā koe, Nat, koro ko Anna, koutou mā e te pai, tātou mā I konei, I te tau tōku pāpā no te awa whanganui ahau, engari I te puaki au I te tau tōku māma, no waitai te whakatōhia. I enei wā ka noho ai I Rotorua, tau tōku whai aipo, kiri kō whai, mi kaere, tokorua mā o tamariki konei, hoi anō rā, tēnei ka mihi kia koutou katoa. My name is Selwyn Hayes, born in Opotiki, raised in Tāneatua, schooled in Whakatane, and on my way through Auckland University, got a degree that allowed me to go to Wellington, and then after many years there, managed to find me a Te Arawa Princess, and ended up bringing our two young ones back to Rotorua. And for my sins, I work in the professional services space, which effectively I've got an office job. And I do a lot of work in that office job with a lot of Māori, but utilise my law and my commerce background to help Māori organisations and kaupapa Māori improve. Anyway, I feel a bit shy now, so I'll just pass it to Jason. But I guess it was good to get him before Jason, because I might never get the microphone back. So we'll see how he goes with his introduction.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Jason Poe. I think I work in professional services because I work in an office. I'm a lawyer, but I don't think I do it in a very professional way. I think most of my clients refer to me as a mongrel, and I'm that person that you come when you want one of those alongside yourselves. I grew up in up north in Kaikohe. I'm from Hokianga, the place that John Rangihau affectionately called Te Tero o Te Ika. And we don't talk as much as those two boys in Wanganui's because Hokianga whakapau karakia, we have exhausted ourselves already. But yeah, really excited to be on a panel like this. Why are we here talking about men's health? Because two women told us we had to. So we are here listening because when you don't listen to them, it tends to be bad for your mental health and everything else that happens. So I'll leave it there. Leave it to probably you, Wiremu, as the next person, since we're just throwing the shuttle around, and see where it gets to.
Kia ora tātou. Oh man, hā te ki nei. No reira, tēnā koutou. Ko mau o te maunga, tauranga te moana, ngā te ranginui te iwi, ngai tamara waho te hapu, tēnei he uri o te moana nei, mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Ko Wiremu ahau. Yeah, it's great to be on this panel with the team here. Thank you for the opportunity to have this kōrero. It's super important kōrero, I think. You know, whole tāna is a super important thing. In fact, I just come back from a workshop in Taupo around talking about some of the very things that I think we'll cover off tonight. So very timely. My background's medicine, and then didn't really like doing that. So I did personal training, which was a bit of a change. Got into nutrition, exercise and all that, but then also realized that's not always the answer, and got into more of the how your thoughts and feelings affect your well-being as well. So that whole emotional and taha wairua of who we are. So all of that together is kind of what I do, and doing my best to help people these days, which is usually around either their well-being or them in their leadership roles, and keeping themselves well as their teams well. Kia ora tātou. I guess that's me, so I'll pass it off to Mr. Movember.
Kia ora whānau. Thank you for having me, Nat and Anna, for getting me involved. As you say, I'm just doing what I'm told, and I've been told I need to be on this call tonight. So like many other fellas on this call, but yeah, I'm the country manager for Movember New Zealand. That sounds a little bit fancy, but there's only two of us, so it's not managing that much. But it's a great role, and one I've been in for 11 years, and I suppose you know, one that is very much based around men's health. It's around getting men to try to be more proactive about their health, and while that sounds really simple, for many years there hasn't necessarily been a focus or a gendered lens for men. There's always been lots of initiatives and promotions for females and for young people and for things overseas, but it's only really recently that we've really started to have a focus on men and getting them more proactive about their health and getting them to change their behavior. So while it's fantastic we're on calls like this, you know, like this is the theme, we're at the start, you know, it's very much the start of the journey, but we're making progress, which is awesome. For me personally, I'm originally from Otatahi, but you know, for the love of a good woman, it's brought me up, who originally was from Te Puke, has brought me into the Bay of Plenty, and again, just doing what I'm told. So I'm here in the Bay, and I travel a little bit up to Auckland for work, but you know, I'll sort of go anywhere, anytime to talk about men's health. It's something I'm really passionate about, and suppose my day job is very much around, you know, getting people to grow, you know, good or bad moustaches. No, depends on opinion quite often. But you know, very much that side of things. But I feel very privileged and very lucky to be reasonably heavily involved in our programs and our investments and the things that we do to try and get all our men in the country to being more proactive about their health. So awesome group of people. Hopefully can throw a few ideas around as well, and just love any questions, just anything at all. It's such a good topic, and a great group. So keen to get stuck in.
And let's do that. Let's get stuck in. All right, whānau. So you just heard from our panel where they work, kind of what lens they'll be putting on tonight's kaupapa around men's health. So if we flip it, how do you guys look after your health and well-being now? Waramu, since you're in that kind of sector now, why don't you lead this off and then I'll pick on everyone else from here.
Kapai. So how do I look after my own well-being? That's a good place to start. So a couple of things that I do. I'll start off with that is probably my morning routine. So my morning routine is all about firstly getting out and moving first. So I'll do my walk in the morning. Thankfully my wife likes coming with me for those, so that's a good opportunity for us to have a kōrero and spend some time together. So we do that first thing in the morning. I also then have a bit of a practice or a bit of a routine around thinking about what the next day's got or what I've got to do that day. So I'll have that already kind of being thought about. We'll have, as a whānau, before all the kids go, my wife and I have 6 kids, so before the kids off to school, we have karakia together. It's an important part of our morning routine as well. Just so then, as a whānau, we're doing something together before we all gap it to our different things that we've got on. So for us, that's probably some of the important things for wellbeing. For me, that's important as we come back at the end of the day, we're together again. So it's whānau time together for Kai. It's being together as a whānau for that is important. So these are kind of, while they don't necessarily sound like the well-being things from an exercise or a nutrition point of view, my walks are actually about my mental well-being. They're not about my exercise. I do that after mahi. They're about, my walks in the morning are actually a mental well-being thing. It's around keeping myself mentally well, which is kind of what Anna's whakatauki is about. If you're out there experiencing te tai ao, ka ora te whenua, ka ora te tangata. So that's a really important part of my morning routine. So yeah, there's a couple of things to get started anyway. There's heaps, but those are heaps for now.
Joyce, thanks for the move. What about you, Jace? What do you do?
Well, I don't really have a daily routine, but I guess for my part, we, as you're saying at the beginning, we live in a stressful environment. We do stressful things and we get pushed into stressful situations. I think the biggest thing is being able to take time out. What's hard for me is knowing when I need to take time out. So in the theme of this this kōrero, I listen to my missus, and I actually listened. While I say I listen to my missus, I listen to you, Wiramu, when you said if you put the mana in your missus's hand and she tells you that's our day off, then that has to be your day off, and you can't cut the corner and those sorts of things. So they're usually the ones that can see when you're starting to crack, when you're starting to yell at the kids, kick the dog, and do those sorts of things. So I found if I have somebody that I have to listen to, that I'm not sure that it gets me to the balanced place, but it makes me more balanced than I otherwise would have been. My work is so diverse and it's so all over the place. I don't have routines, and I think if I had a routine, I'd get bored and I wouldn't do it anyway. So the easiest thing for me, I mean, your Wiramu, your 15-3-1, we changed it. I do a half an hour a day, just thinking about sitting at work, just thinking about something, or I'll go for a walk. But sometimes I don't need to get out. It's just looking at something. You just need to look out the window and those sorts of things. And that sort of, I was doing some work over your fellas' way in Tauranga with the wharero people and the Kraua there, Mane. We were at the port. We're trying to stop the port extension. And we're at the port, and he introduced himself with reference and talked about looking at Mauao, and then you sort of look at wharero, they can't see Mauao from the marae, and those sorts of things, and you realise just not being able to see things that you can connect to, that can create, well, that is creating a burden for them and those sorts of things as well. So when you see things like that, sometimes you might not have time to get out, but if you can just see something or something that you can connect to and those things. And if I can do that sort of with some regularity, I might go down to Whakatohia, go and see Mākio, the people that you're working with. If you can see some of the things that they're fighting for, understand what you're fighting for, gives you reason for the stress, but then in terms of your balance coming home, come back to your whānau and just listen to them when they say take time out.
Awesome, Jace. What about you, Roundy? What do you got?
Yeah, sort of, it's been, I think the first thing to say is like, it takes time to get it right. You know, there's a bit of fine tuning and you try a few things and it doesn't work and then something sticks and sometimes the simple stuff's really hard. But for me, it's the normalization of it. So things that are important to me are, you know, exercise, connection and community. And like, I just make sure every week that there's a few hours dedicated to those things, but they have to be in the calendar and they have to be on a to-do list. Like if they're not, it doesn't happen. Like that's a reflection of my life. So, you know, I like to exercise and if it's in my calendar, I'll probably do it. The connection piece is like always trying to sort of stay in touch with my best mates. So I just put it in my calendar, 12 o'clock, ring such and such. So then it's got a chance. And then the community piece, like that's the stuff I really like. And it's the simple stuff like this, just creating the space and putting in the calendar to coach my boys' rugby team, Nats boy, you know, doing the stuff that I really enjoy. And if it's in the calendar and I've made a commitment to it, it's like all the other things in my life. I'll turn up to a meeting, I'll make an appointment, I'll drop the kids at school because it's part of how I normally do things. So I just try and make sure every week, sort of Sunday night, Monday morning, that those things are in there. Doesn't mean, you know, as I said, it doesn't mean it happens every single time, but it's got a hell of a lot of a better chance of happening than if I just, you know, I just hope and dream. So it's just sort of, I don't know, the normalization, I think sometimes of mental health and wellness activity is a really good way to go about it. Just make it a part of what you normally do.
So we've got some people who have no routine, some people who need routine. So I think what I'm hearing, it's really do what works for you. What about you, Darwin? How do you manage your health and well-being?
To be fair, when I saw the panel, I thought I was the patient, and I was just really there to be exhibit A. This is how not to look after yourself. But then, and then my second excuse was all those guys pinched all my good ones, so I sort of left with maybe a few others that I can think of on the spot, which is a good friend of mine and a whanaunga sort of once said to me about weeding your garden. And so whatever you can do, big or small, try and do it regularly enough so you don't get overwhelmed. Important for stressful jobs, if you're using a lot of your head space and mentally taxing, you know, it's important to sort of do those regular little things. And so in that regard, what I've tried to do is with a busy day with back-to-back meetings, usually online, I'll try and do some of them just via the phone and go out and walk around in Rotorua. People often see me walking around government gardens, randomly talking to myself. And that's because I just try and do some of my meetings via old school phone, so they don't have to see me and I can just walk and talk at the same time. So that's one example of what I try and do. Also picking up on, you know, what our natural tendencies, and therefore trying to build it towards that. I use my phone a lot because of work. My kids give me grief and say that I'm on my device more than them, but that's technically impossible. But in that regard, what I did in the summer is I downloaded an app called Noom. And Noom is just a portal to effectively give you information to empower you in health. And it then gave you little challenges and gives you little articles. And so for me, trying to use my phone to do things like track what you're eating, track your weight, because I was in a fairly bad sort of shape, or even worse, last year. And so I decided to try and do a little bit about it. That helped, is trying to find something that I can regularly use because I'm on my phone often, and that helped sort of be a little coach. The last thing that I'll talk about is trying to do it with others that are in similar situations. So Jason and I have had the great fortune to have met Wiramu and Anna and their colleagues through a small group that we've created, a bunch of lawyers, Māori lawyers, males, recognising that sometimes we don't tend to talk, but because I started talking and there was a few others that started talking, we noted that, especially in lockdown and going through all of that stuff, the old stressful environment can really get on top of you. So through our illustrious leader, Spencer Webster, he created a little forum for us, and we've had 2 or 3 gatherings where Māori males that relatively old and therefore need to look after our health. We were educated by the likes of Uruma and Anna over about 3 hui. Now we want to get those going again, but to us that sort of set a couple of targets and goals and a bit of camaraderie around this kaupapa. So yeah, a few things from me. Kia ora.
Oh, that's me. And kind of, let's just kind of unpack that a little bit. How important do you think community is for your overall health and well-being? So what impact does that have, do you think? Jace, do you want to start on that one?
I think it's really important. I mean, Selwyn's talked about our Toi Ora Tāne group. It was a good opportunity for us to get together. Normally we get together and we talk about our victories. We talk about the last time we beat each other, you know, or who got the drunkest and all of that sort of stuff. But it was actually provided a space for us to bounce ideas off each other, get together, talk about things in a different way, but also share some of our vulnerabilities and what's not working for us. And I mean, the reason we got together in the first place is because some of our mates, because I'm not as old as Selwyn, I might look older, but I'm probably a little bit younger. But some of our mates in their 40s, they're having strokes and heart attacks and things like that. And it's just, you know, we're not there to look after them. We're finding out a year later that this has happened. I mean, even this year of some of the interactions I've had with lawyers that I haven't seen for a long time and different things, I found out, and I've rung them up 6 months later to talk about something that I think that they've done that was really, really brave, and where they stepped out of their comfort zone and did something that imperiled their jobs, but just to take a stand, and found out that they had breakdowns afterwards, you know, and those sorts of things, crises of confidence and those. And so the question that Selwyn and Spencer, well, where are we? You know, where are we to support these people doing these things to make sure? Because ultimately, if they break down and they're not in our industry, then there's less people for us to rely on as well, and to bounce our ideas off and do those sorts of things. And I think one of the hard things is recognizing that you're not necessarily just a lone ranger, that there are other people around you, that there are synergies, even in adversity, you know, being able to talk to the guy on the other side. You know, like when we play rugby, you play against your mate, you want to hit him harder than you hit anybody else, just so that he can remember it and can drink and talk about it afterwards. The ability to do that, because ultimately the tuckers are our clients, they're not ours. You know?
Anybody else have anything to say on that? Roundy?
The sort of point as well, like that Jace makes a little bit indirectly, which is like statistically proven and true, is that, you know, all those sort of situations when you're younger that you're talking about, playing rugby at school, universities, rugby clubs, all these different community settings, you're there with your mates, you're talking about some of the things in life, you're discussing things, you're problem solving, and that's actually a really, really good thing. And as we get a bit older, as a lot of us are on this call, you drop out of those community settings, those universities, those groups of mates where you're problem solving, and actually guys are really bad once they jump out of those environments of keeping those good relationships, and our female counterparts are awesome. So they keep problem solving, they keep discussing the big things in life, they keep staying on the front foot with their mental health and well-being, whereas guys are a little bit worse, a lot worse. And because we're not congregating like we used to, we're not having that fun as a Trojan horse sort of stuff where we play footy, bash the crap out of each other, and then we come together afterwards and have a yarn and celebrate and have that camaraderie, which is really good for us. When we're not doing that, then we're not problem solving, and we're not getting onto things as early as females. So that's why, like, again, it sounds really easy to be, I should be more involved at my local club, or I should play Golden Oldies, or I should do, you know, I should get involved in a local working group of similar like-minded people, because I know that's going to be really good for me. But just doing that and taking that step is really, really hard. But invariably, all the people I talk to say how good it is. A guy I talked to yesterday said that he started in a mountain bike club. He doesn't mountain bike, no interest in mountain biking, but he just wanted to get fit again. And he had a couple of mates who did it. And his wife said to him, "You need to do that every week, because you just come home a different person. You just come home. I don't recognize you. You are a happy man. There's a bit of weight off your shoulders." And so, she identified that, and now that's something that he's integrated and made a habit. So it sounds easy, but it's actually can be quite hard, but can be so rewarding if done well.
Common theme about the importance of our wahine in our lives too. What's your...
Or just the dominance.
What was that, Jace? Sorry.
Just the dominance. You said.
Does it work?
She might be watching, so yeah.
Yeah. Wiramu, what's your kind of take from a health perspective in terms of if you're going out and you're talking to clients and tāne around their health and well-being, how do you kind of position community or whānau or that kind of support, those networks in your kōrero to them?
Yeah, it's huge. Like these guys have already mentioned, there's so much research out there now that shows that the community is such a powerful part of our progress. And when we ignore that, when we don't make that part of what we're trying to do, especially when it comes to environmental design around making behavior change, if we don't include that, it's just too hard to do by yourself. I used to do lots of stuff with people one-on-one and focus on their thing. We actually changed that, and my wife and I did a whole thing around the whole family journey. Like, you've got to get your whole whānau on board to do a kaupapa at home if you wanted to do some changes, especially things like nutrition and kind stuff like that. It's just too hard to try and do by yourself, and everyone else is doing their own kaupapa and you're trying to do this one by yourself. And that's because of the power of community. The people that you're around the most, i.e. your whānau, you've got to get everyone on the same kaupapa first and then try and do something together. It just works so much better. We've seen that so many times over and over again with clients. When they don't have that whānau support at home, we look to the workplace, and is because they're hanging out with people at work a lot of the time. So we'll look at that as what's the opportunity to create a group at the workplace where we can support each other on XYZ kaupapa. It's just a huge part of it. That's probably that is under recognized. Yeah.
Awesome. So community is important, whānau community, whatever that looks like for you. So in terms of if we just if you flipped it, so it's easy to ignore yourself. If we flipped it and you think about your mates that you see, what do you think? Like, how do you engage with them? How do you, if you see something, is it easy for you to approach them and talk to them about the behaviors that you're seeing, or I don't know, like, to talk to them about how they can improve themselves? What does, as from a tāne point of view, what does that look like? I mean, we go down to the pub. Well, you fellas, do you go to the pub? Do you have a drink? Are you able to pick up the phone and have a kōrero to your mates to discuss things like health and well-being? If you see them, if you can see patterns or behaviours. Selwyn, you're thinking.
Yes, ma'am. So probably 2 days ago, I came across some colleagues in the profession, and we have a mutual friend, and I asked, "Oh, how's so-and-so going?" And in that conversation, "Oh, not too good." "Or what's up?" "Oh, his health. It's not in a good space." So I said, "Oh, look, is it related to his heart condition, blah, blah, blah." And they didn't say, so I said, "Look, all good, I'll give him a call." So about an hour later, I gave him a call and said, "Bro, what's going on?" And sort of explained the situation, and it wasn't the connected to the condition that he was dealing with before. But I basically went to the, well, it's probably a tohu, right? You work really hard because you're in our profession, and I see it. You're really passionate about what you do. We all see that. And I know you work hard and play hard. You know, come on, bro. I think, you know, you need to start looking after yourself a bit better. Have you got somebody there to look after you? Interestingly enough, he said, well, I think that's going to happen in a couple of hours. My auntie from the coast is coming up, and, you know, my niece is coming. And so I can already see it coming. And I said, oh, yeah, that's good. So I guess the point of my story is around the fact that we do hear. Sometimes I don't see, because I'm based in Rotorua and I do a lot of stuff all over the place. So I don't get the opportunity to interact physically with a lot of people of my peers, because they're all over the place too. But inevitably I will hear about them, and they're only a phone call away. So for me, it's really going, when I hear or I do see, I try and make an effort of giving them a call and go, hey, bro, I heard this, what's going on? And even though I might feel like I'm preaching a little bit, because, you know, like I said, I'm not the picture perfect, I'm not the A+ student on health. For me, it's just asking the question and having the conversation and encouraging them to do more. And I guess in a roundabout way, that makes me focus on my health. If I'm trying to sort of encourage others, then I need to be equally encouraging myself. Don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I did. Perfect. It's beautiful. But like, what I see from my male mates is that they might recognize something, but they may not pick up that phone. And so what I'm trying to unpack here is that you can and you do, and it's okay, right? So does anyone else have any other different kind of lens on that?
The stuff you like, I'm like a lot of the guys on the call. I'm fortunate to go around and speak to a number of groups. Sometimes the number can be a really large group of people, and it's recognizing, geez, I could probably get up and talk in front of a room full of people, and be more comfortable doing that, talking about Movember, than actually talking to one of my best friends about how he's feeling, or vice versa. Like, it's recognizing that that simple conversation with someone who means a lot to you can be really difficult. So it sounds like a simple thing, but it can be really hard. But from my own experiences, and from the stuff I hear from the people I deal with, it gets easier. So that's what they say, you know, like, once you can establish that relationship, have a bit of foundation, the ability to have open and honest conversations about where you're at with significant things in life gets easier. But that first one and that second one can be really hard, and it can be really difficult. But to the point I think Selwyn made and Nat made, I hardly have ever heard it going badly, you know? So anyone who has reached out, or been reached out to, 99 times out of 100, it has a positive outcome. So while it's really tough in those first times, it's almost always worthwhile. And I know that's the same with my mates, because like, probably took me 6 or 7 years working for Movember and Men's Health to actually have proper conversations with my uni mates, because those are the guys who had seen me, you know, in all sorts of ways, who really know me inside out, not the guy who can come and talk about Movember because he knows, you know, I know that stuff really well. But the other guys who have seen me make a complete ass of myself, they know it, they know me inside out, you know. So that conversations, you know, is a bit tougher, but we're flying now that we've been doing it for a wee while. So, you know, it might take a little bit, but you'll be rewarded like 100%.
Awesome. Any other whakaaro on that? Yes?
Yeah, for me, I mean, we live in part of my job's saying things that other people might not want to hear. So I find it easy to, as you're well aware of that. So I find it easy to pick up a phone and call a mate and say, hey, you know, you might not want to hear this, but I'm hearing that things are going bad. But I think for me, that's the easy part. It's important not to do that when you're on the way to something. For instance, you know, when we get in our cars, because we're transient and stuff, we'll be sitting in a taxi or we'll be sitting in a car, and that's when you sort of think, oh, well, I'll start ringing people. And you're ringing, you have this conversation. I think you need to be ready to listen. And that's the hard part, is actually listening to what they're going to say, and actually really listening to it. You know, if you're going to ask them to, is there something wrong with you? We'll actually be ready for that discussion about, yeah, there's something wrong with me, which probably is the hard part, listening. And then, like Selwyn, I haven't got any answers. I mean, you know, if you're going to listen to me, fuck you. I'm sorry, I said we're not going to swear. But you know, I'll probably just unwind you into the wrong place. But sometimes it is good just to have somebody to listen. But that's the hardest thing, is just listening, empathizing, and then asking, is there anything I can do? And not hoping that they're going to say, no, it's all right, sweet ass, bro. And if they ask for something, you actually just got to be there. And the hardest thing to give, for instance, is your time. You know, especially in this sort of thing, everybody's crying out for it.
Oh, Jace, you said something amazing there. What happened?
Let's
Or
go.
was that me swearing?
Yeah, that's the one. Like, I just want to just tautoko that whakaaro, all that's been said around this, because it's actually people like me, people already know what they're going to say. Like, people won't ask me for stuff because they already just going to hear the same story again. But actually, when it comes from people that aren't in the health space, who actually ring up to ask how you're doing from a hauora or wellbeing perspective, I think it actually can have carry a greater weight of importance. That, oh, bro, you know, like they'd expect it from me, someone like me, but they wouldn't expect it from someone else that's not in that space. I think it's actually a super important point. One of the things that we had today actually was around, you know, being able to actually listen to what the response might be, but not feeling like you have to answer it. It's actually a greater opportunity is for them to share what it is they need to share without you having to feel like you have to answer it, but just to know that they know that you know that it's okay to have that kōrero. And I think that's the real goal there, because then it makes it so much easier for them to have that kōrero with you or someone else in the future. It's starting to bring down or pull down some of the natural barriers that we put up to those kind of conversations. So I think, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, tautoko all of that kōrero. So we've got a few corporates, business people on our kōrero. How do we, you'll work in stressful environments, that's kind of, we've already spoken about that. But what do you think what impact do you think stress has on your mental and physical well-being, if we're specifically thinking about stress? Selwyn.
Might be the number one issue for us. If I think about my colleagues in that Toi Ora Tāne rōpū, it's like the silent killer. You know, it'll creep up on you, and sometimes it'll smash you, and sometimes it's hard to sort of get on top of. It'll just a bit of a snowballing effect, and that's when, you know, being isolated, not talking, that's when you're in a dark space. So I've been in a couple of dark spaces probably in the last 7 years, all stress related, right? It's when you internalize a complicated situation in your head and can't figure out a way, or you don't think there's a way to get out of it. Then that sort of snowballs into sort of a really, you know, a really sad, bad situation. So yeah, for me, it's probably one of the biggest dangers in what I do, but more so how I react to it. And then noting that, you know, I probably don't put in the things or the practices or the routines to give me a bit of more of a buffer against it. So sleep is probably one of my key work-ons. When I have a good sleep, it sets up my day. When I have a good start to the day, I'm in better shape to sort of react or not react to stressful environments, whether that's my kids, my lovely kids, who sometimes sort of stress me out in the morning, through to then, you know, working in a corporate environment, you know, trying to fight the good fight. all of that stuff accumulates. And so, yeah, for me, stress is probably number one. How I deal with it is, try and do a range of things. None of them are totally effective yet. But experience helps, right? Gives you perspective, then you accumulate tools, then you implement some. And probably the number one for me is probably working on my taha wairua as a way to counterbalance the heavy head space that I carry in a stressful environment, and try and utilize tools in and around using how I interact with wairua, or utilize wairuatanga to help balance me as an individual and sort of, I guess, the ecosystem around me. Anyway, that's probably enough wisdom on it.
Means, Alan. Sorry, I just want to go back there though. What are you talking about? Mindfulness? No. Come back. Haramai. Tell me a couple of examples.
So a couple of examples. Oh, yep. So a simple one is back to weeding the garden for me. As many times as I can, each 7 a.m. I'll try and get up. Usually it's with, sometimes it's with my daughter, because she's always telling me, Papa, I'm hungry. And then we'll whip outside and have a karakia. So I'll utilize karakia, which I guess is old school mindfulness, to help me just, even if it's quickly, reset my day and help me bring, I guess, call for guidance, seek guidance, and try and listen to the guidance, and set yourself up for a day. So I'll try and do that, and I need to do that more regularly, but 7 o'clock in the morning is usually my go-to of get up, go outside, have a karakia, and then utilize that to recharge me. To my left.
Nice. Randy, stress, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really helped me with a number of things is that whole knowledge is power. So once you understand a little bit more about stress, like some stress is good, like a little bit of stress is good. It challenges you, it makes you problem solve, it gets you thinking, and when you're under a little bit of pressure and you fix something and you solve something, you come out the other side of that and you actually feel really, really good. So, it's that whole analogy I've heard many times, you don't go to the gym and put on 200 kgs first time and expect, to be able to do it. But if you start where it's a little bit heavy and then add a little bit more and add a little bit more, then you're okay. But the thing that's worked, and as Selwyn says, you don't always get it right, but I actually went to a workshop for one of our programs, and they just talked about gratitude and just practicing gratitude. So some days, you're pretty clogged up and you feel like you've got a huge amount on your plate and you haven't achieved a lot, and you've got 10 things on the list and you feel like you've crossed nothing off, and that's family, that's your out of work commitments, it's your work commitments, you're not getting anywhere. But when you stop and sit down and write down the things that you're really grateful for, actually that changes my perspective. So that's something, trying to do that with the kids. I do it all right personally, and I've been trying to do it with the boys to get them into the habits. About once a month we do it, just sit down and go, what's good, what's been real good this last month, and could be a little win at school, could be something with their mates, could be certain reading level, could be anything, but it's just getting into the habit of going, we always feel like we're under the pump and we're on the hamster wheel, and you're just going round and round. But actually when you stop and look back, sometimes you're like, should I've done a bit, I've done all right here, like I've done bloody well. So I've found that to be like really good. One of the better things I've done actually since I've been at Movember.
Jace?
Yeah, I need a bit of stress. I mean, success without adversity or stress is kind of unfulfilling. Is that success, really? But I think it's like food. I was going to say, is it like a drug? Because I like it. It's addictive, but you've got to recognize when you're abusing it. Going to the gym, just putting your muscles under stress. You can go mountain biking, you're stressing your body out, and the fulfillment is a result of the stress to a certain extent. And it's kind of the same as work. I think we've in my whānau, we've figured out that I need stress and conflict in my life to make sure that it doesn't go home. You know, if I'm having conflict at work and those sorts of things, then I don't take it home. I get my fair share of that before I go and do that. But I think the important part is knowing how to break it off. And I mean, having a karakia, knowing when to say amen, turuki whakataha, so that you can sort of refocus when you go, I don't take a laptop home. I'll go home. I don't work at home, so I come in here to do these sorts of things. Only time I work from home is if I've got the flu or COVID or something like that. So I think that's it. So that you're, like drugs, so that they're not running your life, recognizing when it is having an impact on you to the extent that it's changing the way that you work or impacting on the way that you work in a negative way or impacting upon the way that you interact with your whānau in a negative way. Yeah, I've found that an absence of stress and conflict in my life has a negative impact on what I take home. It's like, if you don't walk your dog, it'll come home and it'll just run around the place too much. It's kind of a bit like that.
Just picking up a little bit on that kōrero, Jace, in terms of drugs. Now, alcohol's been in the news this week, quite high profile in terms of the Patrick Gower documentary that's kind of out there. What impact, not what impact, but do you use alcohol as a means to unwind? What impact does it have on your life? Let's just have a bit of an open kōrero about alcohol.
Are you still talking to me?
Anyone?
No, I was just going to say, lucky I left the whiskey in the back there. So, look, I love alcohol. I'll be blunt. I love alcohol. I like drinking with my mates, singing with my mates. I drink it by myself. Those sorts of things. But I think just like stress, if you've got to get up and go to court in the morning, or if you've got a negotiation the next morning, or somewhere to be, you've got to recognise when it is having an impact on your life. And, it has had an impact on my life. I've got drunk driving convictions and those sorts of things. I was suspended from practice because of my drunk driving convictions. It's those sorts of things. So when you get to that point, you're sort of, you've got to look at yourself and go, well, hey, are you, from a hauora perspective, from a sort of anything perspective, how much help to your whānau are you going to actually be if you can't work, can't do anything, or if your clients actually just don't want you to work for them anymore because you are more wedded to the bottle than you are to their takis. And I guess that's a mindfulness thing. And it's something that I know we all look at each other because it's the first thing we do when we get together, reach for a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. Roundy, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I love a drink as well. Like I love a beer, and always have. My relationship with it's evolved over time. I think we all do a little bit, because it's all about the environment that you're in. But I think it's everyone's own responsibility to have the best relationship with it. But I always see it as, and I see it through the stuff we do at work, is men congregate over a drink like they do. Many do, whether it be at a barbecue, at a sports club, at a community setting, whether it be a celebration, a birthday, whatever it is. Some have a few half strengths, some have a few zero strengths, but the reality is we do congregate. And when we congregate, it's an opportunity. So I always think let's not try and take that setting away. So if we can still come together, if you want to have a drink, have a drink. If you don't, you don't. But it's still an opportunity to connect. It's still an opportunity to have conversations. It's still, you might get together in your, male professional setting, and you'll have a couple of beers, but actually the purpose is to talk about some of the challenges at work or relations or whatever it be. So the drink's secondary. So I think as long as we understand that stuff and we understand, the reason we're getting together and our relationship with it, then it can be it can actually be a really positive thing, you know, if it's bringing us together, you know, to connect and talk and share, and it's secondary, then you know, I always think if that's the type of relationship, then that's a good one. So yeah.
Selwyn?
Probably the same. So I'm a fan of whiskey, and I guess my relationship with alcohol has drastically changed from my 20s to now 40s. Yeah, I used to drink a lot when I was in the 20s from sort of varsity onwards, but now I tend to drink less, but probably hopefully more quality rather than quantity. But I also, I guess from a corporate or business perspective of seeing the culture change in our bigger firm or wider firm from when I was in the 20s through to now. And I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think it has to be a good thing. But it is important to socialize, right? And so it's just that balance. It's just trying to get balance in life around whether it's vices or whether it's stresses. It's just trying to seek the balance. And I think so it varies across ages. I think it varies across sort of socioeconomic levels, of course. And, you know, having sort of gone through all of those ages and stages, I'm just fortunate that I've been able to get through it relatively unscathed. Did heaps of, you know, dumbass shit when it comes to being in my 20s on the piss. But, you know, I think we've all been there. But I've fortunately dodged lots of bullets, I think, and I'm coming out the other side and being a bit more circumspect around how I do things, and hopefully the changes in society that I've seen in terms of growing up through a particular profession is also making it a bit safer, because there's still scary stuff out there. Anyway, koina.
Anna Wiramu, in terms of the physiology of the body, what we're talking to, you know, not rangatahi on this rōpū tonight, but what impact does alcohol have on the body, say, after 40? Is there one?
Just after 40 or like?
Or does it change? Well, what's the part? Okay, the part is, you know, as you get older, does alcohol have a different impact on your body, or is it the same? I don't know.
Well, I suppose the most severe impact of alcohol physiologically is on the liver, and the impacts on the liver, other than the kind of mental health issues that come with excessive alcohol consumption. Does it change as you get older? Just like everything, your body struggles as you get older. And if you're putting a chemical in your body, the older you get, the harder it is for your body to manage that. It's just like exercise gets harder, and, you know, crouching down to pick something up off the floor is hard. All of that stuff gets harder because that's the natural progression of our physiology as we get older. So if you, so we might naturally reduce our alcohol intake as we get older because of a natural process of not being able to cope as well as we used to be able to, as well as the being more mindful, having other responsibilities and priorities to think about. But in terms of physiological impact, the most dramatic is the liver, and that's what we talk about most. But implications: breast cancer, bowel cancer, you know, mental health concerns are pretty big with alcohol. And I know I'm not supposed to be. I know I'm like doing all my talking now because it's my one opportunity to talk.
Thought I'd give you some airtime.
Yeah. But the one thing that I always say when we kōrero about the importance of whānau and the importance of your mates and the importance of having kōrero for your mental health, regardless of whether you're male or female, is that actually is to ask yourself why you're having a drink along with that conversation. Like, is it because you like it? Is it because it's just a habit? It's because it's what you've always done? Or is it because you rely on it to bring you down to some point of calmness to be able to have the initial conversation. So my whakaaro is think about why you drink. Ask yourself, why do you drink? Because actually, if it's just a habit because you've always done it, you know, there are way more benefits of not doing that anymore if you're just doing it because you've always done it. But also not a teetotaler myself, partial to a gin, just to be clear, it's water tonight. But yeah, thinking about how hard it is on your body the older we get is really important.
Uramu, did you have any other whakaaro before we kind of close off?
I think that's like what Anna's mentioned, the physiology, it's definitely around the liver. From a psychology perspective, it's around perhaps even thinking about, because I've helped quite a few people around, I guess, their mental recovery after some kind of event. And so a lot of times that's had some link to, whether it's the drug alcohol or any other drug that you can think of. It's really around the recovery from that and putting back in place patterns. And so I guess the impact of it from a psychology perspective would be a loss of confidence around putting in practices or routines or patterns that would support good well-being. And from my experience in working with quite a few, it's been around, it's actually something that's helped them to avoid feeling certain things, or to numb the feelings that they didn't want to feel in whatever situation, whether that's at home or mahi or relationships or finance or whatever it is. So yes, it's definitely something from my experience that that I guess plenty of people will use as a way to not feel stuff we don't want to feel.
Awesome whakaaro, yeah. Thanks for bringing that in, because I kind of immediately went to the physiology rather than kind of, we're talking about health and well-being, right? So mental and the body. Thanks for that, Uramu. Okay, this has been a mean as kōrero. Thank you to everyone watching at home as well. I know we've had loads of comments, mostly smart, coming through on the hotline. So thank you for everyone sitting there whakaaro through. But I just wanted to close out, whānau, like if there was one piece of advice that you could impart to our whānau who are watching at home now, what would it be? Jason, you're very quiet.
I'm always quiet, and it matches in with my whakaaro on that. Actually, I was just reflecting on what Anna was saying. Not everything gets harder when you get older. And I was thinking about my puku. I was just wondering where your mind went, because my puku was a lot softer than it used to be. But I saw your laugh. I don't think you were thinking about that. But I think if there's a take home, it's listen. Listen to the people around you. If they say that there's something, if they say that you need to address something, listen to it. They're your mates. They're not saying it because they want to put you down. Don't take it as a put down. And if you are reaching out to support one of your brothers or your sisters, maybe listen to what they say.
Gee, you're right. Selwyn?
Trying to think of a really awesome whakaaro, but still stuck on the bros talking about his puku. But if he's talking about listen, I'll go to the yang and be on the talking end. You know, where possible, just talk to your mates about how they are, and not just like as in, oh, how's it going? More of a how are you? What's going on? And you know, especially if you can see stuff, right? It's important that we talk, because the more that we sort of talk, the more we can keep each other supported and accountable, and probably turn the flame back on us as well. If we're, I guess, speaking for myself, I try and talk to others and try and make sure that they're okay. It's a useful reminder to make sure I look after myself. Anyway, lovely to be amongst you. Good to see you fellas. Kia ora.
Awesome, Selwyn. Roundy?
Yeah, I'd say sort of like what I said earlier, like put it in the calendar. So whatever it is you want to do, want to achieve, whether it's exercise, whether it's food, whether it's connection with mates and relationships, whether it's whatever is your thing, put it in the calendar. Like what do they say? It takes 30 days plus to create a habit, and then it maybe and then it's a little bit more. So how do we make good mental health and well-being habitual? Well, for me, it's been, by normalizing it, putting in the calendar, putting it on the to-do list, making sure it happens. It's a bit tough for a bit, and then it changes, and it just becomes part of my routine, part of who I am, and it gets easier all the time. So that would be my thing. Make those, make it part of the routine.
Awesome, thanks, Randy. What have we got?
Yeah, I think those are all great. It's so we've got listening, we've got speaking out when we need to speak up, and then putting it in the calendar. My one's probably going to go along with that one, which is if you are looking to do something different, if you wanted to change something, if something's kind of piqued your interest or something's come up for you that you think you should do differently, my thing is start super small. Like, it's all about doing something really consistently before you try and get it into making it quality or what you think is. So if you want to start doing some exercise or something, don't go out and start doing 60-minute workouts. Don't think that you're going to go back to what you used to do, which was the 6 days a week training of 60 minutes of hard out sessions. Just forget about that, and honestly just start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just something that you can fit in, even on busy, stressful, traveling, everything else is going wrong, but you could still get it done. Start super small, super small, and just get the pattern down first. Once you got the pattern, you'll start to increase it from there.
Oh, amazing. Now, I know we weren't supposed to say anything, Anna, but did you want to say something just to close our kōrero? And I've had such an awesome time wrangling these guys into tonight's kōrero, but did you just want to close us out with something?
Yeah, I've got a take-homer, which is to all the tāne out there, including you guys on the screen, because I care about you all, is don't conform to the stereotype and be one of those men that doesn't get a health check or doesn't get the thing that is niggling looked at. Please don't be the stereotype of the man that we talk about. Go and make sure your physical health is supported as much as, we've talked quite a lot about the mental health and the wider aspects tonight, but yeah, I don't believe that there's a stereotype that men don't go and get their stuff checked. So go and get your stuff checked. It's really important. And I'm super grateful for you fellas coming tonight. I find it really hard not to jump in on the kōrero, but yeah, that was amazing. And yeah, I feel like this is the beginning of something else. And yeah, thank you for coming tonight. And to the whānau out there who are watching too, I've been checking out on the other device to see how many are watching. So really nice to have everyone on the live too.
Awesome. Right, whānau, ka kite, and we'll see you next month for our wahine kōrero. Pōngari.